some movement? Uh,
It's we are going to excavate the area so we
mm-hmm,
can build this hole in the ground essentially,
mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
again it'll be approximately 3 feet in depth. Um,
Uh-huh.
it will have a great inlet structure, which is it's a concrete box, which is about 4 feet by 4 feet in
Mm-hmm.
the corner, and that uh, is at the it sticks up and it meets the very top of the berm. The berm is what outlines this hole in the ground. So it will be in the corner, and I'm pointing to it right now for those folks that see the screen. But it's a concrete box that allows the water to go into it uh,
Mm-hmm.
when 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 you've got a storm that is of a greater intensity, a stronger storm than what the facility is designed for. So so it doesn't overflow, it just goes into that inlet and it flows into the underground storm drain system. Um,
Okay, so that is being placed there for because there is water gathering at that location.
yes, we want to collect the water that comes from the storm drain system so that we can treat it. The purpose of this micro bioretention device is so that the water, when it flows in there, it trickles down through the ground. And
Mm-hmm.
what you don't see below it is layers of different types of soil. So we have different types of soil that perform treatment of the water. Because what happens is not only are we allowing the water to filter through the ground, and that's good because it recharges the groundwater. That's actually a requirement of these devices. The second thing is it cleans it because, and that's one of the major properties of this. It cleans the water. It takes out sediment, it takes out phosphorus, and it takes out nitrogen. And because those things are very, very bad for streams, they're very bad for fish life and and other aquatic life. Oh, and ma'am, you have your hand up. So, well, yes, what is your question?
Yes, so I'm concerned, is there going to be an odor or a smell as this? I know it's going to be buried, but you're treating the water, so you're using some type of agent. So is there going to be any noticeable smell around that area?
Oh, there will not. What happens is this is actually just a natural biological process. We don't use any chemicals. It's just different layers of soil. It's essentially just um, a clay, a sand material. So it flows through it, and as it flows through it, the sediment is removed, and just by a natural biological process, the phosphorus and nitrogen, but it doesn't have an odor because it's it's removing phosphorus and nitrogen. We are not adding any chemicals. It also, very importantly, it does not involve standing water. This kind of structure is what we call it's an infiltration device. So the water flows in, it does not stand for more than a few hours. It is intended to flow through the soil because that's where the treatment occurs. And then whatever that little hole in the ground can't accept, if there's just so much rain flowing into it, that's why we have that structure right there in the corner, and that water flows into it, and it relieves any kind of potential for this ponding an excessive amount of water. So it does not pond water It is intended to discharge the water. It's intended to treat the water. It's not an issue because I know folks are concerned when they hear stormwater management pond. It is not a mosquito breeding ground because it discharges the water and it drains it.
Okay, I
But
have
is
two
there
questions.
going,
Go ahead,
Okay.
whoever's talking.
so is everything completely sub-ground level? Is there anything that's going to be above ground? Because as the water comes into this collection pond, is there going to be the possibility of any type of debris accumulating there? So runoff from the top, I mean, if everything
Yeah.
is coming there, the ground, is there
Okay.
the possibility of debris coming above the pond area?
Okay. So you did break up a little bit, but I did get the intent of your question. You're asking if, as the water flows in, will there be any possibility for debris to capture in the device? And the answer is no, because what it's collecting is water that is coming from the storm drain system. If there is anything which normally is collecting water from your curb inlets along the curb. So very rarely do we have in a roadway system like this, do we have debris. Now we do get a lot of debris in storm drain systems that are near like a rural area, a rural section, but we do not have that issue with this kind of system because it's only capturing water that's coming in from the curb system here. That's what its intention is. It's capturing water off of Fort Washington Drive, and it's also capturing water that's been captured in the storm drain system that we're conveying. Oh, and I noticed Mr. Weiss has joined us. Hello, Mr. Weiss.
I'm sorry I'm late. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. No worries. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you.
All right, so we have gathered here. I'm going to run through the list of folks that we have here. So we have Miss Janetta Boone, Mr. Patrick Boone, and Delisa Hernandez Reed, and of course Ron Weiss has just joined us, and also gathered from DPW&T. We have Lolita Ellis Samuel. So Lolita Ellis Samuel is our right-of-way agent, has been meeting with the property owners and working on acquiring the easement. So, and what I was doing, Ron, just before we got started, was just showing a picture of the proposed micro bioretention pond. It's a very small facility, about 3 foot in depth, and it is going to collect water at the surface. It will then infiltrate, trickle down through the layers of soil, and it will remove sediment, phosphorus, and nitrogen. And there were some questions asked. Will there be a smell and odor coming from this? And I said no. The treatment that we do occurs down below. We're just simply removing phosphorus and nitrogen. We're using existing soil. We're using a variety of different soil types, but this all occurs down below below the surface. You don't even see it. The top surface will just be grass. It will literally look like a slight depression off the side of the road. So these are very nondescript facilities. They don't stand out much, which is the way we like them, because they blend well into the background. And we are and will be responsible for maintenance. Another question that was posed: will there be a possibility for debris to accumulate? And I said, Virtually none, given the drainage that it is capturing and conveying. But if there ever was something that got caught in the pipe and then ended up in this pond, it's our responsibility to remove it. We do maintain many of these types of structures. These are relatively easy structures to maintain because we mow and clean them regularly. And then yes.
Go ahead. I was getting ready to ask you these two questions. One question was, how often will the filter be maintenance done on it and changed? And why was this location chosen for this drainage system?
Now, this location was chosen because of its perfect location from a drainage standpoint. It's perfectly located to capture the drainage that we're conveying as part of our system. It's at the low point, and it's capturing a large enough area of drainage that it will meet the environmental requirements of the project. So that's why we found this location. It's ideal for what is needed. It's the right size. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sort of, kind of. It does. Yes.
Okay.
So how often are you guys going to do the maintenance on it?
So I'm sorry, I forgot to answer the question about the filter. So it's the filter is really just layers of soil, and we would not need to come in and replace the soil layers for years. Probably 5 to 7 years. We will come back and we'll dig it out and we'll replace the soil. But it lasts and it functions quite well because it's a very natural process. That's why we like these facilities. So we would dig it up and then we would put the soil back down, put down grass and restabilize it, and then the grass would come back in a few weeks, and really you wouldn't even notice anything was done. But the more regular maintenance, we would cut the grass. We cut the grass, and that's really dependent upon the time of year. Of course, it's dependent upon the amount of rainfall we get. But we regularly cut these, so it's certainly not gonna grow with tall weeds and tall grass. We cut these down because we like them to function, and part of their functionality is to keep the grass down. So very simple structure.
I have a question, actually.
Sure.
Historically, nothing like this has been placed before in the community. What prompted the placement of this water drainage system now?
We were required by DPI to do this because it's anytime we do work in a storm drain, building a storm drain system, you need to account for not only the quantity of water, that's like the size of water, the amount of water that you convey, but we were doing enough disturbance that we were required to provide quality control. And that's quality control means when you clean the water. It was exclusively because of this project that we were required to build this. And I do want to just put things in perspective. We were required to do it as part of this project, and it's quite clear it's part of this project because it's such a small device. Most of the projects that we build, when we build micro bioretention or other stormwater management facilities, they are huge. They occupy a half an acre, a quarter acre. I mean, they are substantial in size. This is, just to put a fine point on it, the easement area is only 79 feet by 72 feet. So this is a very small structure. So it is sized for this project. And And we would not have been able to build this project without having this device in place.
Okay, so Irv, when you say this project, you're talking about the entire phase 2 project?
I'm talking about the entire phase 2. Yes, Ron.
Okay, I don't know if I missed, did you brief that part or did I miss that?
No, we were really focused today, Ron, on describing this because we're anxious to get to negotiate on the easement.
I understand that, but I just think that when you, it would have been good as background for people who are just jumping into this, like most of the folks here, that they understand that this is just one part of a much bigger project.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they don't have that background that I do.
Okay, so why don't I explain that? And this may also answer, I believe, was it Ms. Boone that posed the question about why this was being required?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, so Ms. Boone, to give you the background, this pond, this little micro retention device, is part of Swan Creek Road Drainage Project Phase 2. And what we're doing as part of that project is we are building storm drain that will address this severe flooding concerns that were experienced by the residents in this area, in this intersection here. And this is on the north and south side of Swan Creek Road. This also addresses drainage problems that go all the way up to Flame Lane. And we are building a system here to between the homes so we can discharge water more effectively. We're building some pretty substantial pipes, like 36-inch pipes between these homes so we can convey drainage and get it away from the homes and then take it to the ponds that are in the golf course. But in order to do that, we have to comply with all the stormwater management requirements of the county. And that's why we're required to provide a certain level of, again, it's called water quality control. And that this allows us to move forward with the project. Yeah. Does that answer the question, Ms. Reed? I'm sorry, Ms. Boone?
I believe it does answer the question. In addition to that, is this designed to also impact because now there's a school that has been built right at the circle at Swan Creek, Fort Washington Road. And because of the clearing of all the trees, which of course had an impact on the amount of water that flows from that area, now that whole land has been cleared. There is a building there, but it does impact how the water flows even more so because there's no ground there to absorb the amount of moisture when it rains heavily. So is the system that you are describing also designed to absorb the influx of water that is coming from the school and property when it rains heavily?
The school was required to, and I believe that they did do this. They were required to provide controls on their property to address drainage impacts from their property, from their project. They did so because they have to follow the very same regulations that my agency needs to follow. Well, sure, there may be some water that comes from that site because we're right next to the school. That was not the intent of this structure. They have already provided substantial controls on their property. I believe that they put on-site stormwater management facilities on their property. And what that should have done was it should have addressed any changes in flow, because you're right. When you clear an area, you open it up and the water concentrates more quickly, and therefore it can overwhelm a storm drain system if it's not conveyed and, well, captured before it's conveyed. So they were required to provide stormwater management facilities. So what we're doing is
If I could just jump in there.
Sure, please.
They have big underground storage tanks to hold a surge of water, and those tanks will drain into a big pipe that goes under Fort Washington Road, behind the houses on the south side of Swan Creek Road, into that pond. And that pond behind Flavia Walton's house has been reconstructed to accept that water that comes, that drains out of the underground storage tanks. That you'll see I guess those lines, the white lines, maybe. No, those aren't it. But just south of the triangle extension of the traffic circle, there's a pipe that goes behind our property, right, probably on the property line, behind those houses, behind 102, and drains into that pond. So the majority, hopefully the majority of the water the idea is the majority of the water that's coming from that school that will flow under the Fort Washington Road through that pipe into the pond.
And just one point of clarification, Ron, that
yes,
the water that comes from the school, that goes into our pipe system, that does not go into the pond at all. It doesn't go into our pond. It bypasses it, because you can, and I'm hovering over it. I'm going to change my cursor so you can see it a little bit better. You see this pipe here?
yeah.
That is capturing all that water. It does not discharge into this pond. And
I'm not talking about that pond. I'm talking about the golf course pond.
Oh, yes, sir. Understood.
Yeah, I'm not even thinking of that. What you're thinking, your
bioretention.
Yeah, that thing. Yeah, I'm not calling that a pond. That's your micro thing. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So the water from the school is in fact going under Fort Washington Road into the golf course pond that has been reconstructed to accept that water.
Right.
Okay.
That
true? Is that true?
That is true, sir. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. And so this pond has to do with water flowing south from Tantalon North area, flowing down to the houses that are on Tantalon houses that are on the north side of Swan Creek Road, and the houses on the south side of Swan Creek Road. Those houses have been multiple times have had severe flooding and have had to reconstruct their basements. And the one house there is now one across the street from 102 is now built on stilts to hold it up above the water that's flowing under their homes. 109, the house that was at the end of Arrow Park, was ruined and has been rebuilt almost from the ground up because of the flooding that Irv is trying to mitigate with this system.
And this will certainly have that impact. And thank you very much, Ron. That was a very good summary. I hope that addresses the question adequately about why we're putting in this facility in relationship to this project, and the context of the school site with the storm drain system. Are there any questions about that at all? Anything I can do to answer anything, or did we not answer any questions properly before?
I have a question about certainly your And so question was asked about maintenance. So when you put this system in, there's a installation project. How long is it going to be in place before it has to be
A year.
replaced, or how are you monitoring certainly the life of this system that's in place? I mean, I'm just thinking about like pipeline projects, something
Sure.
I'm familiar with.
Gotcha. Yeah, so these kind of systems, because they're underground, um, we have to go off of empirical evidence for when do we repair them. So when I said we repair them between 5 and 7 years, that's when we intend to do it. Just because that's the historical life cycle of these structures. That's just because it's very difficult to know exactly what's happening to your soil layer below. So we just base it off of performance, and these facilities have been studied by the Maryland Department of Environment, and we go by a suggested maintenance schedule because they all function essentially in the same way, and they're if you buy if you build a micro bioretention in one area and it accepts a certain size drainage area, it's going to have a general lifespan as a facility maybe in Anne Arundel County or some other location, just because it's a function of the soil and the amount of water that's getting to it, and the size of the drainage area that serves that structure. So that's why we can say pretty confidently that we will be able to allow that system to work for 5 to 7 years, and then we're going to go in and replace the soil. Does that answer the question?
It does, but it also causes a follow-up question. So how
Sure.
much of a construction effort is this for the initial installation, and then perhaps I know we can't say with any true confidence about repair and having to go in and replace or that soil area, but
So
how much of a problem is that going to be?
the first installation will take the longest, just because I'm sharing my screen here, but I'll describe it. You can see the area needs to be cleared and graded. So that by far is the most time consuming part of constructing this. So it'll take about 2 months to build because we have to grade it, stabilize it. We have to establish soil and sod, and we have to make sure, and we do that, and we put in that structure at the downstream, at the low end. But once it's built, that maintenance, that replacement of the soil that we would do in 5 to 7 years, that's a much easier effort because by then all the hard work has been done. We just have to drive in there with an excavator. We have to dig out the soil, put in the new soil, and then seed and straw, cover it with mat so that the soil and the grass has a chance to reestablish itself. And that only takes a few weeks. That's probably 2 weeks work at the most. And probably less because this is such a small structure. Does that answer the question?
It does, and my apologies, I have one more. So when are you,
sure.
if approved, when are you looking to start this? With the school opening in November, I do believe, and this installation project taking approximately 2 months, there's going to be a lot of congestion around that area.
Oh, yeah, we are still in the design phase. So it will, Ms. Reed, it will take a bit of time. We don't expect to go to construction until next fiscal year. Right now, we're in fiscal year 2024, which fiscal year 2024 goes all the way into June of next year. And we don't expect to start construction until fiscal year 2025. Yeah, the school will be well open and will be working out there without interfering with any construction activity. Now, of course, we do have to respect school activities and the neighborhood activities. So we always schedule our work between regular work hours. We typically shut down our site activity by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, unless the property owners have allowed us to work a little bit longer so we can get the work done more quickly. It is entirely dependent on what we arrange with the property owners if we're on their property. And then on the roadways, you will not see us past 4. And we start typically at 8. We have a fairly compacted work time frame because we don't want to impact the community. We want to do our work when we can provide the greatest volume of work with the minimal amount of disturbance. Does that help?
It does. Thank you.
Sure.
I did have a question. This is phase 2. How many phases are there?
Well, this is it for now, but we are actually launching over the next year. We're going to do a more comprehensive analysis of programming storm drain projects throughout the county, so we can determine where do we go next? Where are the severe public safety problem spots? Our projects are always driven first and foremost by public safety. So we're going to be doing analyses around the county to figure out what projects do we do next. So there could very well be a phase 3, but it is really dependent upon an analysis that's much more comprehensive of the county, and it's always comes down to availability of funding, personnel resources, but yes, indeed, there could very well be a phase 3. I just can't speak with any authority right now on that. You can always, by the way, folks, in my meeting invitation was my email, my cell phone. You can call me anytime. You will often get my voicemail, but please leave a detailed message. I can always tell you what our plans are, what the status of our projects are, and if we're experiencing any challenges. We love hearing from the citizens we serve, so you can call me anytime, and I can advise you. So, does that answer the question?
That did answer the question. Thank you so much, Mr. Becker.
Right. Thank you. There is phase 1 was completed, and one thing you'll notice there on the golf course, there's and Ron, you and I talked about this. There's a great opportunity to do significant work out there that I think can ultimately help the community. And our Department of Environment is looking at partnering with a private entity called Greenvest to do work on the golf course. They're still studying this. We've been sharing all of our engineering data with them so they can determine the feasibility of their project. So I don't believe that the final project has been approved, but I know they are at least in the concept planning stage. So that to me is very encouraging. It's a substantial project. It's expensive, but the golf course, because it's such a large open green space, there are always ways of making those work to serve stormwater management needs and still allow the golf course to function.
Yeah. Okay. Could I add to that? all this water that Irv's trying to manage is ultimately headed to Swan Creek. And in order to get to Swan Creek, it has to go through the golf course.
Mm-hmm.
And the golf course is, as Irv said, there's a lot of money that's going to have to be spent to fix the golf course to let that water go through the golf course and get out to Swan Creek. So my concern is the more, and this all has to work. It's a system that has to work together. We need to get the water from the school, the water from Tantallon North, under Fort Washington Road and under Swan Creek Road, onto the golf course, and then through the golf course to Swan Creek. And so it's not, because of money issues, they can't do it all together. So they're doing it in bits and pieces as they find money to do it. Stop me if I'm wrong.
That's very correct, Ron.
Okay.
I would just add one additional detail. The thing we were able to do on phase one, which was outstanding, was we were able to fix that first pond.
Right.
We were able to open up the drainage from that first pond into the connecting pond. And that is no small feat. What that allowed us to do was, now what you don't have is, you don't have the backup that used to occur at that small pond. So we opened up, we rebuilt the golf course ramp here, and we also opened up the drainage connecting the two ponds. And what that allowed was, all the conveyance goes here. It's got a lot more capacity than the small pond at the higher end, and that allows our system for phase one and for phase two to fully discharge into the golf course without impacting the surrounding properties. It functions fully. It does not back up. We don't have what we call a hydraulic gradient issue. That is where the water would back into the system. It will not do that, because we were able to improve how that golf course pond functions. So you're right. There's a lot of work still to be done. But the one thing that we did that was extremely helpful was improve how water flows into and through those first two ponds. And that really, it makes phase one and phase two so much more effective. So we were very, very pleased we were able to do that. And the golf course worked with us. It took about, Lolita's here. We thank her. It took a lot of negotiations with the golf course to get their approval, but they did approve it. And we rebuilt their golf course, their golf cart path. And they were very pleased with the final results. And so I think it was really a very good effort that I think is helpful. But the rest of the golf course, yes, there are opportunities for getting water through that golf course, collecting more, and that's what our Department of Environment is looking at right now with their project.
Is your project going to help with the rainwater collection in those ponds as well for the overflow?
Well, it did, because what we did with phase one, we opened up before we did our work. What would happen was that small pond, the first small pond on the north side, would just back up, and it would actually, you wouldn't see it, but what would happen was the entire storm drain system just backed up completely. The water could not get out of the pipes. So what we did was we opened up the connection between the pond. We also made the pond a little bigger. We also armored it. We put stone around it so that it kept on collapsing before. And what would happen when it would fill with sediment, and it would become extremely shallow. And which was not helpful to anybody. So the pond is bigger. and deeper, and it conveys drainage much, much better. So it's greatly improved. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
All right. Very good. Very good. So,
All right.
and Ron, I'm glad you asked, because it's good when we have these discussions that we have context, so you know why we're asking this, because we want to be transparent. We want to tell you what we're doing, why we're doing it. We want to tell you what we can do, but we also want to tell you what we can't do. I don't want to make promises that I can't deliver on behalf of the county, but we do have a really good project here. Its intention is to prevent the flooding that you've seen in this area for years, and I do believe it's going a long way towards addressing that. And folks, one other thing, Ron, I told you that we were going to do this, and we did do this. We expanded our project to make sure it conveyed and captured adequately the drainage north of Flame Lane. So we studied that area. We upsized our pipes accordingly, and it does a much better job of conveying the drainage for this neighborhood than our original design. We did redesign things to improve it so we could do more. So,
so you've upgraded the design, but you haven't actually put the pipes in yet, have you?
Oh, no. I'm sorry. We're a little slow. It takes us a while to do these things because we just so you know, we did get our concept approval. That took a little while with our partner agency, DeFi. We got that done. We are now working. We've cleared a lot of the right of way. We have 7 properties remaining. This is one of them, and we are working with those property owners to get the necessary easement rights. And people have been very cooperative. It's still a long process, but they've been very cooperative because this project is about them. It's about improving the quality of their life. It's about improving conveyance, so you don't have water in your basement. So it moves from north of Swan Creek Road to south of Swan Creek Road. That's our purpose. We want to get it out of there and keep this project moving. So Ron, no, we expect to be building it in fiscal year 25. We expect to be done our design, get our final levels of approval, and get our easements. Easements take a while because we have to negotiate. We have to show that we are why we need those property rights, and we also have to show the residents what it's going to look like on their property after we're done. And I can assure you, when we're done, that area where we build that pipe will look aesthetically pleasing. You won't know the pipe's there. We will restabilize that area, but it's very difficult to build some of this pipe. These are very large pipes going between. You can just see in the image here how tight it is. So we're going to have to build these very carefully to not impact the properties, but we don't really have any other choice. We have to build the pipes there.
When will the residents know? When would they be notified of the work starting?
Oh, once we have gotten our final approval and we're ready to advertise. Once we're in the advertisement phase, because it takes 6 months to award a project. It takes a long time with our procurement system because it's a very legal process. But while we're in that procurement system, we're going to send out notices to the affected property owners, to the community. Ron, we'd be happy to, send notices to the entire homeowner association so they know what's happening. So that this way they're given advance notice. It's timely too. So they get the notice, and then within a few months, the contractor's out there doing the work, and they're prepared for that. Um, but it is a pretty concentrated project. So the way pipe work works, you typically will see them in one or two properties at a time. You'll see them, we'll stockpile the material in one spot. The contractor needs to work that out. That's their issue. That's part of the contract that we issue. But when they work, they typically work on one or two properties at a time, because what you have to do is you have to cut your trench. You don't want to cut a long trench and leave it open for an extended period of time. It's dangerous, and it also will weaken the area around the trench, which we don't want. So that's why it's a very concentrated effort. And then when we cross the road, that's typically a week or two effort. And what we do when we cross the road, we do it one lane at a time. So we will not be closing the road. We will use a flagman, so people will be able to drive around the work zone, but we do not close the road. We're able to maintain traffic at all times. And then at night, when we're done, we cover up the hole, we put a plate over it, and traffic is able to flow through the area completely. Does that give you a good sense of what to expect?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Oh, sure. My pleasure. Yeah. And folks, while I'm an engineer, I really try not to talk like an engineer, but I really can't help it sometimes. So please, I don't mind explaining things again. I want to make sure I put things in really clear terms, because you deserve to know. You deserve to know what we're going to do. We want to be really clear that this is a public good that we're doing, and that our intention is to be as least disruptive as possible, not only for your benefit, but also for ours, for the county government. If we are less impactful, that means less construction effort. So we much prefer, if we're going to go in and grade something, we try to keep it really tight, so that we're minimizing the earthwork, we're minimizing cost, but we're also minimizing disturbance to you. So there are benefits all around, and
okay.
That's our goal. That's our intention. I just want you to ask whatever questions on your mind, folks. Anything that you can think of on this project.
Irv, when is the deadline? When do you need the decision of approval by?
If we could have a decision within a month, that would be very helpful, because one of the requirements of our permit with DPI is that we have to show them that we are working on and clearing right-of-way, and it is helpful to at least get a sense of where you folks stand on the easement. And if you could kindly let us know within a month time after you've seen the exhibits, and if you'd like us to answer any further questions, we will be happy to do so. But if you could please give us your tentative response in about a month, and then we can send you the documentation for execution if you are comfortable with what we're giving you. Does that answer your question? And does that seem reasonable?
That seems very reasonable, and it does answer my question. And
Okay.
and in part because there's a small number of board members that are present on this call, it would be great to share this information with them as well, so that they see fully what's being proposed. And then I did notice at the beginning of the meeting that the meeting is being recorded. If there's a way to get a copy of the recording, that also would allow the people that weren't able to be here an opportunity to listen to your explanation of how things are intended to be done, and and the purpose and the and also the advantage of the structure as well.
Sure. We can share that video,
If
the
that's
video
possible.
of the recording. Yeah, I believe we can. It is a very large file. So
Yes,
what we'll
it
do is we'll
Maybe Dropbox or something.
yeah yeah we'll put it on a SharePoint folder and we'll
Okay.
share it with all the meeting attendees. And if you could, somebody from the board, just kindly send me an email, please, requesting the recording, and we'll provide that and all the other meeting documentation and the benefit. And please, when you send that email, kindly include everybody that needs it, because the way a SharePoint share works, it has to be, at least with our network, I can only share that link with the recipients of the email. So if you could include anybody who you believe would need a copy of that, then they would have access to it. Of course, that person could download it and then share it, which is just fine. This is a public discussion. We don't mind you sharing that at all. So please, if you could kindly send me an email, and then we will reply in kind.
So that would be Ron, who you regularly converse with or have dialogue with. Ron is our point person, and he's the person that would send you the email. Right, Ron?
That's it.
Yes. Let me. I have to get my slide rule out so I can talk to Irv as an engineer. Wait a minute. I think I'll get my slide rule out. Anyway, I do have a couple of questions. You're going to have to take down, clear some trees in order to construct this micro by retention.
Oh, not much.
Not much.
Here's the imagery right here, and you can see that this area that is already pretty well graded. It's got shrubs, but I do not see any trees of substance here.
Okay.
And that will be impacted.
Okay. Are you going to put any trees in?
Well, you cannot put a tree in a micro bioretention.
Around it.
Around it. Let's. Well, if you want, here's what we can do. We can certainly add some additional trees. I would like to do them outside of the easement area, but we could do that, Ron.
Okay.
And then we could do it. We do want to be away from the pipe, and we do want to be away from the structure, so we can plant some trees. That's fine. You name the variety, we'll put them in there. We can also suggest some. We can have my landscape architect suggest some trees to you all. Just if you could, in your email, kindly request the recording, request trees, and we will come up with a nice list for you.
Okay.
And we're happy to do that. That's
good.
No problem.
Yeah, that area is kind of like a jungle right now. We haven't done anything with it, so it's whatever nature has done there. So So the other thing is this anything? Excuse me. There's what I think is a similar facility on Fort Washington Road, just north of the roundabout on the east side.
On the east side.
Go up a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah, you went past it.
Oh, I passed it. Okay.
Yeah, right. That green area right there.
Oh, okay. Sure thing. Yeah.
That looks like it's a depression. It's all grass.
Take a look.
I just want to point out to somebody if that's similar to what you're talking about.
Yeah. Let's take a look. That does look a lot like what we will have. Yes, because you can see a depression here. It is quite a bit larger than what we're envisioning. I can tell already that's because ours is barely 40 feet by 40 feet. It's It's pretty tiny. But yeah, it wouldn't be anything more than this. I'm glad you pointed to this, Ron. This is a really good example of what you can expect in that area. It's essentially a rolling hill here. You know, you go down and you come back up again. It's barely noticeable. Now it does have trees around it, but you'll notice it does not have any trees in the treatment area.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Does that help? Does it
Yes,
give you?
yes, it does. Yes.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Of course. Yeah, I'm glad you raised that. That's perfect, Ron. Thank you. That was perfect. So what? And Ron, you said you had some more questions?
No, I think that covers it. Let me just, I'll be right back.
Sure, no worries. So, folks, just to recap what we will do, and Ron will send me an email and we will reply. We will provide the exhibits, and these exhibits that we were going over, we'll provide those exhibits, and we will also provide a list of trees. You can select a variety or several varieties that you like, and we can have those installed as part of the project. And of course, we're happy to meet separately if there's any further questions. We're happy to do that because you folks make your time in the evening for us. We really appreciate you doing so, and because it helps us move this project along. And I can't tell you how important it is. We can't do these projects without acquiring the necessary property rights. So whatever communication you need from us, we'll provide. We're happy to do that.
Okay.
All right.
Go. This is for you.
That's outstanding. My dad had a slide rule from his younger years. I've never used one myself, but oh my gosh, that's wonderful. And so we've come a long way,
It gives answers to 3 places, so it's not that bad.
You got it. All right. Well, folks, I'll just go around the table, see if there's any questions. I'll start with Miss Jonetta Boone. Any questions, Miss Boone?
No, thank you, Mr. Becker.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Boone, any questions?
No, not at this time. Thank you very much.
All right, and Miss Reed. All right. All right.
No, I
thank
don't
you.
have any questions. I thank you. It's been very helpful what's
Great.
going on. So I appreciate the time that you and Lolita gave. So thank you both.
My pleasure and our pleasure. And Lolita, thank you so much for being with us. And Miss Reed and Mr. Weiss, thank you all for joining us. Again, just reach out to me. I look forward to getting your email, Ron. We will act on it accordingly. And anything else you need, please let us know.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you,
Thank you.
folks. All right. Take care.
Bye.
We don't